Hi, everyone, and welcome to Saddle Up. I'm Steve Pollack. I'll be your host today. Joining me shortly will be Jay Friedlander. And Jay, we want to start out by wishing everybody a very happy Thanksgiving. Really one of my very favorite holidays of the year. Just a great day. I'm really looking forward to it tomorrow. But we know, and those of you who know me well know that I'm really looking forward to this weekend, even maybe a little bit more, as exciting as Thanksgiving is. Jay, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Steve. Yeah, happy Thanksgiving to everybody. It kind of takes me back to those days. Hollywood Park used to do the free Thanksgiving dinners, and I would go there and have my little Thanksgiving dinner there about 2, 3 o'clock, and then go see the family for the real one.
I miss the racing in the morning there. I mean, there is some racing around the country tomorrow. You and I talked about it. I'm going to do a little bit of playing in the morning before I get in the car and drive up to my brother's house with the family. But did put a few races on the line for tomorrow. I've been going to play the fairgrounds this winter and Tampa. Those two tracks, turf races. I'm looking there. I did look at Laurel and looked at Gulfstream. Found a horse I like down at Gulfstream as well. So I'll be playing a little bit more out of town of late, and that out of town line is up for tomorrow. But we want to start with the big race on on Friday, and that is the Clark, which is down at Churchill Downs. And I really found this to be an interesting race, Jay. It just looks like these were all the horses that just decided the Breeders' Cup Classic was going to be too tough for them. And I'm looking up and down, and I'm really interested to see what a couple of these runners do, more so than I am in actually who I really like in this race. I really want to see if Gosker is going to become the horse that I think he could be, and maybe he was just always running against journalism. And then how good could Magnitude be? I actually gave Magnitude a little shot to beat Sovereignty, which was probably ridiculous looking back at it now in the Travers, but he came back in the Pennsylvania Derby and he rated. I'm more interested in that. There's a bunch of horses in here that are really in and outers. Did you have a take on the Clark, Jay?
Yeah, Magnitude's kind of interesting. This is more of a tended to be more of a speed horse. And last time, as you mentioned, Magnitude kind of took back and made a nice late run and almost got there. In a pretty decent Pennsylvania field, Baeza, assuming Baeza goes on next year, figures to be one of the best horses in the country. So no shame in losing to Baeza. And I think that one's a factor here under Jose Ortiz. As far as Gosker, the thing that really impressed me about Gosker is last time kind of finished in a blanket finish behind Hit Show. Hit Show, of course, was the big winner out in the mid East, upsetting to everybody's surprise Forever Young in the Dubai World Cup. So Hit Show certainly has his credentials. He seems to be on an every other race kick, so this would be his off race if you want to try to bet that. Rattle and Roll was also in here, who ran on nicely last time against Hitcho. Kind of surprised because he hadn't really shown that much ability compared to the best horses back east. And I think when you look at the running style for this race, as according to Brisnet, it's the early pressers, the horses that just sit lapped off that leader, that have the best advantage. They're winning at 67% over a short sample of 6 races. And the two early presser horses are First Mission and Gosker, so I'm expecting them to be forwardly placed and doing well tomorrow. As far as Gosker, the thing I like about him best is there's the one game changer. None of these horses really got in any big trouble last time. So there's nothing really to go off of that. It's like they'll recover off the trouble. But Gosker is getting blinkers today. And I think that's the one possible game changer. You can really throw out the race against Magnitude, where he stumbled at the break and lost all chance in the Pennsylvania Derby. But now that he's back and gave a decent performance in the Fayetteville, he is now third off the layoff with the blinkers. Yeah, I'm going to lean to giving Gosker a nice chance tomorrow, Steve. What do you think?
Well, I don't know if that's enough of a price for me though, at 4-1, because when the other horses run their A race and they're very inconsistent. So I'm not sure this is a race that I'm really going to make a stand on. But I think you hit a couple of the key points in there. The fact that Magnitude did take back last time. Gosker puts the blinkers on. And to me, after looking at this race for a while, seeing those horses at 4-1, 7-2, I think they both have a good chance. I'm certainly not interested in betting Hit Show or First Mission to bounce back at a similar price. Rattle and Roll, I don't really like, and he's 7-2. I just didn't find anything that I was really interested in other than I really want to see how those horses run. Those are horses that could certainly show up in the Pegasus, and it's probably a pass for me, but a race that I'm very interested in watching.
Yeah, same here. Kind of disappointed that the Clark is a grade two now, is a grade one all these years. And then I really think that race should be put back on Saturday. For some reason, they put it on a Friday, and it's actually the biggest race of the weekend. So I think they should relocate that, and maybe that'll get some of its luster back. I would say one interesting horse to me, I think the horse that's going to grab the lead here and might be able to hold on for a minor place is Willie D's. I think Willie D's is the speed of the speed, but early speed, the kind that goes right to the front, just hasn't been wanting. Out of that six race sample, it's 0 for 6 for the early speed. So I think Willie D's is kind of an interesting one to watch in terms of if you're looking for a trifecta key, I might use Willie D's there. I'm certainly not going to have trouble finding him going to the front.
Yeah, I would just you don't think Gosker with those blinkers is going to become a front runner with with that hood on, huh?
I don't see him getting the lead, but I see him right in that early presser position, lapped off the leader. And I'd be surprised if they tried to just send him to the front. That's generally not Luis Saez's style. It certainly could happen. I mean, the blinkers just might make him brave, and Louis might just be along for the ride. But I see Gosker lapped second off Willie D's.
Okay, we're gonna have a little bet, a side bet there. I think Oscar's gonna go. I think those blinkers they're gonna shake things up, and I think they're gonna go today. But there's no way of really knowing that. It's a little bit of a guessing game either way. Willie D did have the fastest early pace number last time on Brisnet. But again, it's just a race that I'm more interested to see what those horses are going to do in the future. I just really couldn't come up with anything for that race. Jay, I tell you what, there's a couple things that we want to talk about before we're going to get into the big race on Saturday. Sunday, we've got a really good version of the Matriarch. There's also the Stormy Liberal, which is a 5 furlong race. We're not going to talk about these races on Sunday. The Matriarch AG Bullet is stretching out. And there's a horse named In Our Time that's a very fast horse. So there is some speed horses in there. And the Bayakoa is a nice field of 9 with some runners coming out of the Breeders' Cup Sprint in that race. So that's going to be, I think, a very good card on Sunday. But before we get to Sunday, we want to go to Friday, and there's a race on Friday, the big race on Friday. And I got all these races here in front of me, Jay. The big race on Friday at Del Mar
Oh, the Hollywood Turf Cup.
is the Hollywood Turf Cup. Yeah, I did want to discuss that race a little bit. I don't know where it is here. I had it in front of me.
Race 7 on the card.
Was that a race you had an opinion in, Jay?
I did, Steve. Obviously, as everybody can see, it sticks out like a sore thumb that Truly Quality is easily the class of the race. This is a horse that's won multiple graded stakes races, which none of the others can say. Won in the San Marcos and won this race last year. Actually, I'm sorry. After winning the Hollywood Turf Cup before that, won the Singspiel, not the San Marcos. Got his head handed to him in the San Marcos, excuse me. But so this one is easily the class of the race. Certainly kind of a one-paced runner, comes from way off out of the back. Generally, will need a little pace pressure to set him up. And this is very interesting, Steve. It's actually a rematch between the last three horses, the first three horses in this race last year. So not only is Truly Quality back, but Balnikov is back as well, who was second and trying another shot at him. And we're also looking at a horse that kind of appealed to me a little bit on figures at a price was 911 Turbo, who was third. 911 Turbo hasn't won a lot of stakes races, but has certainly put up some nice figures and would be no surprise here under Antonio Frizzou. And if you're going to ask me who kind of appeals to the most, obviously Truly Quality at 5-2 and going to be bet down lower than that is probably not the one that grabs me in terms of value. Uh, I do think, though, that it's interesting, Steve, that Mirko de Moro, who is having just a huge meet. I mean, he's finally getting into barns other than Richard Mandela. Jonathan Thomas uses him today on the favorite. But Steve, you've known me long enough to know how I think. And I'm very intrigued that Umberto Rispoli, who rode both Truly Quality and Balnikov, is on Balnikov this time. So I think Umberto feels that he's got a solid shot to turn the tables, and that certainly grabs my eye as well. How about you?
Well, I tell you scares me a little bit about Volnikov was a big effort last time, and it was the first time that horse had ever gotten Lasix in his career, which is very unusual for a 6-year-old horse. I really thought that at 4-1, that wasn't the greatest 4-1. I don't know if Truly Quality could possibly be 5-2. He really towers over this field, and it really looks like an allowance race the rest of the way. So I'm going to try to go light in that race, whether I'm going to use Volnikov or not. I probably won't. I'm probably going to single Truly Quality. I didn't see anybody else in here, but I did want to discuss something in here coming out of this race. Now, for years and years, it was always difficult, even in an 8-horse race, to win from 6, 7, and 8. I would always start looking at 6, 7, and 8 as the horses that you want to try to beat. But I got to tell you, watching the last 2 years, and in the fall especially, I think we're seeing a trend, and especially on the flat. And when I say the flat, Jay, I mean the 5 furlong races, the 1 mile races, and the mile and 3/8 races. The reason I'm excluding the mile and a 16th and the mile and an eighth races, which this one is not, is that those races, the mile and a 16th and the mile and an eighth race, come out of a chute. And I still think inside and saving ground is very important in those. But I want to talk about a little bit of a trend that I saw last year, and it really came to fruition in the Breeders' Cup this year. And I know you and I keep pretty close statistics, and we were in agreement of this. But if you go back and you look at the results in the Breeders' Cup races, the Juvenile Fillies was won by a horse named Valentina. She was the 10 horse. The Breeders' Cup Sprint for juveniles was won by the 10 horse Cy Fair. The Breeders' Cup Open Company horse was won by a filly named She's So Spicy. She was number 10. So both 5 furlong races came from the 10. Both horses did show tactical speed and get good position. Let's go to the 3-turn races. The filly and mare Turf came 4-13. She Feels Pretty, the American horse, went wide every step of the way and kept on running. The Breeders' Cup mile and a half race was won by the 14 Ethical Diamond. Now, these are great jockeys. They're getting good position in these races. There's usually a fair amount of speed, but there are a lot of outside horses. Now, the Breeders' Cup Mile was won by Notable Speech. He was very impressive, maybe one of the most impressive runners of the weekend. Thought he dominated that field pretty easily. He had the 2-hole. I think he could have won it from any post. But what I did want to say, if you go through the meet this year, or go through this fall meet, they hadn't had a lot of turf races, but on 11-14, Cameron Slough came wide. Cecilia Street came wide. Down the rail was out at 24. But for all those races for the Breeders' Cup, the rail was not out. I think when the rail's out, it actually helps those outside horses. Rail at 24 feet, we saw a horse named Euchre win from the 9-hole. Cypress Moon went wire to wire. He was down on the inside. Willa T was the 8 horse. There were 7 horses in there. 1 had scratched. He was the far outside horse. The best is yet to be was 7 out of 8, the best horse. And then in the nightcap, the race that blew everybody out of the pick 6 was Candy Bar, a horse that paid $41. And he got in from the also eligibles, Jay. He drew the 12-hole and really, really worked a good trip out. Congratulations to those who figured that horse out, because I went back afterwards. I do a lot, and I say, why did I not even have this horse on my radar? Very, very good tape horse, very good form coming in, and looked like a horse that maybe should be 12 or 15 to 1, but because he got in off the alsos, you got that extra value there. But also with that outside doing better, I think that really helped this horse. And the 12 Candy Bar was really a havable horse. It was a mile race. They weren't coming out of the chute. Tyler was able to work a little bit of a trip out. He wasn't actually in the 12 post. I think there was 1 scratch, which put him in the 11. But he didn't go super wide into that first turn, and that's what we're seeing. So a lot of it is good riding. But I think maybe this course has changed a little bit from where it was maybe a few years ago, and maybe in the fall, but especially without coming out of a chute. Now, there are some races coming out of the chute, mile 16th, mile and an eighth. But I would not just throw those outside horses out, and maybe even you're looking more for the best horse. There's a lot of tracks that I do that with. Like, for example, when I see Gulfstream and I see the rail way out, I'm really looking for an outside trip. Those horses on the inside, they just never get out. It's so tight on that track. That would be a good example. And I think this is more of an example of a fair course where horses are going to get inside trips, are going to save ground. But these horses on the outside, if it's a horse you like, think it's their turn to fire, and you've got the rider that's capable of getting that trip, I think these outside horses, Jay, are doing better. And I'm seeing a little bit of a change in the track that I've been watching for years and years.
Yeah, and I'll add one more to that list, Steve. The Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf, Gestad, who got off to kind of a tardy start from the 14 hole, and yet still managed to loop that entire field under Christophe Soumillon for Aidan O'Brien and won handily. And if he hadn't had the slow start, I mean, he would have won by daylight. I think Gestad's going to be a very interesting contender. I hope after, I know the big European races for the 3-year-olds are back in Europe, but love to see that one come out again and see what he can do against, older horses next year. But yeah, Steve, I don't know how much of that can be cultivated. I don't know if it's just something that's happening naturally or if tracks are kind of looking at the balance and say, if we don't find a way to groom these tracks, obviously with main tracks, they can be graded a certain way. And sometimes it's to the detriment of racing. I do remember, several years ago, about a decade ago, Santa Anita got the Breeders' Cup for the first time in a while, and they just wanted to impress everybody, it seems. So they just really souped up the track so nobody from behind could win. That was embarrassing. So the next year they graded it so they could balance it out. I don't think turf courses can be graded as well, but I have to think there are certain ways they might be able to cut the grass so that they can give more horses an even chance. It's just like when you see in the Olympics and you see like sprinters, you'll see that if they're not starting from a level start, they're staggered based on the post. So they're actually all running the same distance because if you're running on the inside, you're running a little bit shorter distance than if you're in lane 8, let's say. So that's why they stagger them. And maybe, the racetracks can do something similar where they might cut the grass a little bit shorter in the outside to make it more balanced. I don't know. I'm not a track man, but or a superintendent, but I have to think it's something they can do if they want to.
And a lot of times on those biases, Jay, I don't actually try to figure out why. Again, the Del Mar main track is just it's such a crazy track. I remember after the Breeders' Cup last year, not this year, but after last year, everybody said the fall is always closers. And I went, that's ridiculous. I had every single day that they've run since they opened the meet up in the fall. It's a crazy looking stack of papers that I have, and it's old style because I mark it with a pen. And that's absolutely not true. But the Breeders' Cup did have a couple closers for sure on the main track. And then this year it was all speed. And that is usually what that main track is. I do look for trends. I do try to find the right horses. But I also think if you find the right horses, especially if you're looking for price horses, if you find the right horses that are in the position, that's a favorable position. And what I'm seeing in these big field races at Del Mar the last couple of years are these horses from the outside, especially if there's pace in the race, are finding a way to take back and then make a run on the outside when those inside lanes are just not happening. Now, if you sit third, lose third or something like that, or you're up on the pace and you're saving ground, that's just great. But if you're behind and you're trying to come from behind and every one of these good riders is in there and they're holding their position, it's hard to find room. And I'm seeing a lot of horses rally down the middle of the track. And we saw that in a lot of those races that we went over, including Gestad, who I had written down, but I completely went over. That was really one of the main, that was one of a few horses for that horse to win from the far outside and for the 14 horse to win in the Breeders' Cup Turf. And by the way, great things can happen for those that do work. I did like that horse. It was a 50-1 shot that I thought had a wonderful chance, and I did use that horse. Hopefully, those of you who called my line that day did hit that exact and nicely, because I thought the horse to beat was the one that ran second, and obviously he was only 2-1 or 5-2. But that was a horse that was a fantastic tape, and congratulations to them for running down. And for those of you who bet that horse straight, I feel really bad for you because it was 50-1 when they loaded in the gate. And Jay, in the middle of the race, that horse went down to 25-1. That was it's just ridiculous. We keep saying the same thing. There's another thing I want to talk about because we want to start talking about this Breeders' Cup, Jay. And what I think the biggest disappointment in the Breeders' Cup was the scratches. It was absolutely ridiculous. I want to read this out to you. Sweet Azteca, Tamara, and the Philly Mare Sprint were vet scratches. Arizona Blaze was a vet scratch in the turf sprint. In the distaff, Scottish Lassie was a vet scratch. In the classic, Sovereignty was a trainer scratch. In the mile, Mystic Dan was a vet scratch. White Abario was scratched about a minute before post, and then they didn't give the fans much time to bet the race. And why that was absolutely ridiculous, not giving anybody any time. I have no idea why they did that. And they just put them in and loaded them. And I'm like, well, what are you guys waiting for? There was one more race to be run that day, and there was plenty of daylight. So I'm not sure what that was. And then a horse named Atsilla was a vet scratch in the Philly Mare Turf. That's 7 vet scratches on the same day, Jay. These are supposed to be the best horses in the world running on that day. Do you think that maybe Del Mar got a little bit too conservative? Because I did see there were some of the trainers that were very upset that they had their horses scratched.
Yeah, and I'd have to say probably at the top of that list is Kenny McPeak. Did you mention Blackout Time? That was Jason's horse in the juvenile. And I thought Blackout Time had a shot. I thought Jason made a credible pick. There was enough speed in that race to set Blackout Time up. So he lost both that one and Mystic Dan. And I think Mystic Dan's career is kind of winding down. I don't know if they're going to bring him back
He's
next year. I think
retired. He's done. I
what's that,
think he's
Steve?
done. He retired. I think I read that the other day.
Yeah, I think there's just too much value in that one in the stud to bring him back. But yeah, that's really rough for that guy who was shipping out from the Midwest and losing those horses. I was just surprised that it was so many. I mean, I understand the idea that you need to be cautious, and they were just looking at anything. In one case, I remember Arad Ortiz kind of tipped off the stewards. I can't remember which mount right now, but it was one of those ones on your list that Arad was on.
Was it
And
White Abario?
it may have, yeah, I think it was White Abarrio. And
Okay.
supposedly, from what I read, Arad kind of mentioned to the stewards, hey, maybe better have another look. Arad's, not stupid. I think the White Abarrio scratch might have been legitimate or if Arad was tipping him off. As far as the rest, yeah, I just think at a certain point, especially in a prestigious race like this, you probably want to talk to the trainer, get some input. I can understand if it's a claiming race because there often trainer they are trying to lose those horses. They are praying somebody will take them off their hands. So you don't want to listen to a trainer on a claiming race. But on a big world championship type race like this, get some input before you make that decision off in a cloud by yourself. These trainers know these horses well, and they're not going to send them out in grade one championship caliber races if they think there's something wrong. These horses are going to have too much stud value, too much breeding value. There's only a minimum amount of geldings in these races. They're not going to do something foolish and jeopardize that horse's future. Listen, get some input.
Boy, I couldn't agree with you more on that, Jay. I mean, you talk about some of the trainers of these horses. Tamara is a Richard Mandela horse, and I didn't hear if he had any comment on that. But you already mentioned who Mystic Dan's trainer was. I mean, there's were some top trainers all around the world because some of these Euros were scratched, and it was just very disappointing. I just wanted to give a couple of shout outs to some great training jobs. Incredible job for Bill Mott to have Cilia just fire huge in the Breeders' Cup Distaff. She just crushed. Very, very impressive effort by that horse. Really a lifetime top, in my opinion. And I really want to give full credit to Jose D'Angelo, who trained 2 back-to-back winners. She's So Spicy, who was a filly against the boys. And folks, if you're still not betting fillies against the boys, you're just not paying attention because these fillies in these sprint races and these long turf races, they run just as well. Maybe on the dirt, it's a different story as Richard Mandela, but he drew the rail, unfortunately, with Copion, and maybe she lost a chance at the draw. But who was going to possibly beat Ben Tornado? And I tell you what, Ben Tornado, maybe if Cilia wasn't the most impressive horse of the day on the dirt for sure, maybe Ben Tornado was.
Maybe so. And I just want to give a shout out to our buddy Jason. Little redemption there for Blackout Time getting scratched. Congratulations on that nice pick that Jason had. And so I do think that was a pretty impressive performance there at a nice price too, like $17, I think. So Yeah, I do think there were some definite highlights. There were certainly a few favorites. Ted Nothy certainly won like a good thing. Was no surprise there. I think you wanted to mention something about that one, but let me
I
just.
did, you know, Jay, that was really, it was really incredible. I read an article the other day and the guy said that in the article, I don't want to pick on anybody, but he said that he off his numbers, he had six horses that ran faster than Ted Noffey. I got to tell you, there weren't six horses that ran faster than Ted Noffey in the Breeders' Cup. Ted Noffey's race 142.2. He ran 35.7 for the mile. I thought he ran a great race, and it was a really comparable race to what Nysos ran and to what the Breeders' Cup Classic horse ran. I know there's a different distances, but Ted Noffey was awesome. He was clearly one of the best three or four horses that ran the entire Breeders' Cup.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I did want to give you due credit for that nice pick of Sci-Fair yourself. I think that one paid about $12 under a rad. So well done there, Steve.
Well, it was my dad's name. My dad's
Ah.
name was Cy, so I had to go with that horse, right? It wasn't really a no. I'm just kidding. Loved my
Well,
dad's name, but you know, true, you know, all the credit to Cy-Fair. Got a great trip from that outside post. And again, when you're handicapping that Del Mar turf course, if you can get these horses to get position and you can see it, and I could see that one getting a good position. I ran Ortiz with a fabulous ride there and really kicked the Cup off in a big way for me, as I made a pretty big bet on that horse and got started in a very good way. Probably, you know, one of the most heartbreaking losses I have had in my racing career was the Breeders' Cup Mile. And you know, the way that the track had played, Jay, the more I looked at it, the more I loved Citizen Bull. And you know, sometimes folks, you got to give yourself a chance to make a big bet. And I really did make a big bet there. And I did not play the exacta with Nysos. It's paying nothing. It was paying nothing. It paid $5, I think. But I thought the value was in trying to beat that horse. And I had the double already from the Breeders' Cup Mile turf, but I went back and bet the horse to win as well. And I didn't get there. And the horse lost a bob. And it said in the charts it was that was a neck. It looked like a very short nose to me, and they were kind of bobbing back and forth. But that's one of the things that I did see. I just saw that speed was so dominant, and I felt like that horse was the speed of the speed. I didn't think the horse that won the race last year was the same, the Saddler that was in there. And lo and behold, Citizen Bull got clear. And I'll tell you what, Nysos fired huge. Citizen Bull ran a great one. In fact, I think Citizen Bull got himself about maybe a half behind and just battled back and almost got him right on the wire. So a great race there in the Breeders' Cup Mile Dirt, and a good adjustment by me, but not rewarded, Jay.
Yeah, you surprised me. I really thought Citizen Bull had seen his best days as a juvenile, and I just thought he was washed. So I never expected him to last that long. I thought in this caliber he was cheap speed. I thought he would fold like a house of cards, and he didn't. I mean, he made Nysos battle out every step. But Nysos is just such a gritty, determined horse. He's only lost one race in his career, and that was barely by a neck in the slop off a huge layoff. So Nysos is a neck away from being perfect, and I really hope this is a horse I think that can really. They haven't made an announcement yet if they're going to retire him, but this horse could really be enhanced by getting a chance to go the classic distance, which he was kind of pointed to, and then another injury took him down, and we had to settle for a mile. But I really hope they say, okay, in this case, it's just good business sense. Let him run in the Pegasus, and then if he does well there, maybe you run him back in the Dubai World Cup, and then I think his stud fee is going to really skyrocket if he shows he can handle the distance. He's not just a miler.
Yeah, no doubt about it. That's a really exciting horse, and I think you're absolutely right. When he won that race, I was thinking Pegasus right then. Actually, I was thinking about my bankroll first, but yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I think Pegasus would be a great spot for him. Just hope he can stay healthy. You know, maybe that horse just needs a little bit of luck, and yes, he did get the job done there, but that could be a really, really nice horse for the future. All right, let's get to some handicapping, Jay.
All
Uh,
right, Steve, let's do it.
let's get to some handicapping. Man, I got a lot of papers over here. You know, what can I tell you? Hey, I want to tell you folks about casino house parties. They've been really taking good care of us. CasinoHouseParties.com. Their phone number is 213 500 4063. Saddle Up 50 is the code you want to use. You'll get $50 off of your first party. And folks, if you want to have a party, you want to have roulette, craps, blackjack, you want to have professional dealers come to your house. I mean, what a good time you can have with these folks if you have a party there. And you get as many tables as you want. If you want a party for hundreds or just a party for 15 or 20 people, give them a call. Poker as well. They will definitely take care of you. CasinoHouseParties.com. And once again, 213 500 4063 and Saddle Up 50 is the code. And Jay, I wanted to start with you on a great winner you had. Maybe you could tell us a little bit about this one, but there was a horse named California Smoke, which is what we're going to do when we go through the next three races. We're going to smoke it in California. But tell us a little bit about California Smoke, $25 winner that you had last weekend, and $147 exacta. Jay, that is a huge, huge exacta for what we've been seeing in Southern California. I guarantee you that's a top five exacta of the meet.
Yeah, thank you, Steve. Yeah, I mean, this really shows what happens when you get full fields. And unfortunately, the fields at Del Mar have been a little bit better lately. Some of them have not been great. Obviously, last meet at Santa Anita, we did have some issues there. And when you have these kind of options to choose from, these prices are going to drift up. Not that California Smoke wasn't likely to drift up anyway. Uh, basically, I'll tell you what really tipped it off, and I'll just give you a little background here. We all remember the advent of synthetic tracks here, and cushion track, which Hollywood Park used, was the best one. And basically, that was the closest one to dirt. And because Hollywood Park got cheap at the end, they knew they were going to sell the track. They just stopped buying more cushion track material. But the dirt just blended in so well. They just kept shoveling more dirt in the stuff, and it just
That's exactly what they were doing.
yeah, so it just kept playing more dirt like. So, Santa Anita said, hey, this stuff's really working out. Let's put some cushion track at Santa Anita. And unfortunately, it didn't work. And one of the issues was obviously Santa Anita gets the rainy season. Hollywood Park got practically zero rain. And Santa Anita had some serious drainage issues with that track, which they didn't resolve for many years. So essentially, that stuff was getting to be like a bog. And so what they did was, in a desperate attempt to save the winter meat, they went ahead and contacted this company in Australia, which was using this training service down there called ProRide. And we all probably remember they basically brought the ProRide owner over, and they didn't even remove the old, cushion track stuff. They just shoveled a huge amount of this ProRide material in it, and for a while it worked. They got a break from the rain, and the stuff assimilated together with the old material, and it was working great for a while. They said, "Oh, gee, we saved the meat, thank goodness." The performance wasn't great because it's kind of a slow surface, and then more rain came. It was that winter we had these monsoon rains, and soon that stuff got bogged down too. It was just a mess, and it just it didn't drain like dirt did. That's the upside and the downside. Dirt will drain and evaporate much quicker. So finally, they said, okay, we got to get rid of all this synthetic stuff. And for now, ProRide, which wasn't even used as a surface in Australia for racing, it was a training surface only, is now only a training surface again. But there is one track, Steve, or one training facility that still uses ProRide, and that I've mentioned this once or twice on the show in the past, but it's the Skyline Training Center, and that's in Kentucky somewhere. And essentially, this is a training surface that is now used daily for a certain select breed of horses. Essentially, the surface that used to be used a lot and now is almost gone is the surface that was the one that became famous for synthetics, and that was Polytrack, and that was still used widely in Europe. But God, Polytrack, Steve, was such a crap racing service. Hopefully, the Polytrack owners aren't watching this and getting their lawyers. But I'm sorry, that stuff was garbage, and there are also a lot of breakdowns on Polytrack. Now, the surface that's generally used that's much superior and is closer to dirt is Tapeta. Tapeta is not quite as dirt-like as Cushion Track was, but it's still pretty decent. I mean, it's not the best as far as I'd prefer not to bet on races on Tapeta, but yeah, it's a huge improvement on Polytrack. But Pro Ride is the surface that's used at the Skyline Training Center. And the thing about Pro Ride, Steve, it's the most tiring surface there is. And it's kind of the theory where, if you're trying to build yourself up for a racing on sprint, a lot of, runners will run on the beach because it's much slower, trying to get traction over the sand. And it's a similar effect for Pro Ride. It's the most dramatic difference between that and dirt. And this one had a bullet over the Pro Ride surface. So when I saw that, I was like, this horse is really well conditioned. And he certainly proved it. It was a wide open field. Obviously, if you had an accomplished horse coming back for his maiden, you'd have to take a look at that. But none of those horses really stood out that had run before. And I said, this one's got a shot to shock the world, and certainly did. That conditioning really paid off. And all I'm going to say, Steve, is watch out, especially in these Midwest races, excuse me. And I'll be focusing a lot of attention throughout the year at Churchill and Keeneland because the purses are so good, so they're just attracting these huge fields, and that's where, generally speaking, you're going to find these horses that trained on Pro Ride at the Skyline Turf Center. Just watch for that sky in the workout tab. You will be rewarded.
Wow. All right. You learn something every single day. And that's what's great about this game. There's a lot of nuances for sure. And that's one that I certainly didn't know about. So, Jay, we're going to go to the Hollywood Derby, which is a grade one race at a mile and an eighth. And we're going to go horse by horse. These are 3-year-olds. They're running for a $300,000 purse. And they are coming out of the chute in this race at the distance. And I still would lean a little bit towards horses getting that trip on the inside as making it a little bit of a difference. Still, the fact that they're coming out of the chute. But again, Jay, all meet long, we've seen these outside horses doing well. So still a factor, maybe not as big as it is, but we're going to pick it up horse by horse. I'm going to give you first toss. I'm going to toss it to you first. You'll take the odd numbers, and I'll go after you. How about the number one horse, Boss?
Okay, that works, Steve, because I'm kind of an odd guy anyway. I think Maz under that resurgent jockey Ricardo Gonzalez had a couple of lean years and has certainly proven himself now not only on the as a dirt sprint jockey, which is basically what his bread and butter was, but also on the turf. Yeah, he's not having a great meet this year, but it's a short sample of 25 races, and I think Ricardo is due for another winner here. This one certainly has had some good experience over the course. Was a close fourth in the La Jolla back in the summer meet, a mile and a quarter off the win, so that was kind of a blanket finish there. This one has kind of improved. The that classified that conditioned optional claiming slash allowance race was a nice win from way off the pace at Santa Anita, and then didn't really need to be that far off. That was kind of uncharacteristic of him. Last race, he was a lot closer and just sat there and close finish off test score. A legitimate contender here, Steve.
Not really. I made a nice score on this horse two back. I know where his ability level is. I think he's a little bit short on these. And again, this is a horse that I really like. Good case on Ricky Gonzalez riding better. I'm going to pass on this horse today because I think that there's some horses that are a little better than this horse. The Friendly Confines, the two going to be on the lead. Hector Barrios on the lead. Watch Hector when he's on the lead. I'll tell you, it's a completely different story watching him on the lead and watching him close. He really struggles finishing. He is just, it's just like he's throwing the whip at him. He's got the whip on the side. He's hitting him on the neck. It's amazing to watch him go against a world-class rider that has finish like Rispoli. Will run him down every time. What Barrios is best at is when he's got a horse that's closing and they've got all the momentum because he just doesn't have that push. If I were his jockey agent, I would really have him watch riders like Rispoli, riders like Pratt, maybe Nakatani in the past, maybe Irad Ortiz or Paco Lopez, the way they finish, because that's what his problem is. But this horse is going to be on the lead, tough distance to go wire to wire, but he should get the lead in here. Again, not a horse that I'm in favor of here, stretching out to this mile and an eighth distance. Wouldn't be surprised to see either him or the one to stick around for a piece. They're not bad horses. They're just not in my top three.
Yeah, that's a good observation about Hector. I think, unfortunately, I think he's become more so, more sort of dependent on getting to the lead, which he's good at, and he's been on a lot of front runners. But yeah, at point, Rispoli, if he's got the horse and he gets the pace set up, will often run him down. Hector is still the second, in my opinion. Yeah, it's kind of a you have three guys on the turf here. You've got Hector Barrios, you've got Umberto Rispoli, and you've got of course Juan Hernandez, who could ride on gravel. He's good on anything. And those guys kind of fight it out until Flavian Pratt winters here. So you'll see Flavian back for the first 3 months of the winter meet, and then he'll take off for the juicier purses back east once the winter snow is over. So I do think that this one. Yeah, I don't think there's an overwhelming amount of pace in here, and because of that, I think there's not. It wouldn't be unheard of for me that friendly confines could last. It just depends, I think, how easy a lead he gets. I don't know how easy it's going to be, but if somehow he can clear a little bit, it wouldn't shock me, Steve. But he's not probably my top choice here. But he's a contender.
No, he is a contender. There's no doubt about it. And again, I'm not saying Hector actually reminds me a lot of Kent DeSormo, who was one of the greatest riders of all time, to be honest with you. But if Kent could have finished, or Kent could have really kept his head together for a longer period of time, but Kent's ability to finish on horses, and I'm not saying that's why Real Quiet didn't win the Triple Crown, but if Kent could have finished better on horses, he would have been a whole lot better. How about test score? He's got one of the top jocks in here, Juan Hernandez. Graham Motion Trains. What's your thoughts on test score?
He's the overwhelming favorite, Steve. You'll never get that 5-2. You're not going to get 2-1. He's going to be something to five. And at least we're telling you ahead of time. Don't be surprised. We talk about these computer-assisted wagers all the time and these drops in the last minute. Even though Delmar bans the wagering, the computer-assisted guys in that last minute, last 2 minutes, you're going to already see the impact before that 2 minute mark. So don't expect to get rich on this one. Certainly is a huge threat for the win. He's a grade one winner of the Belmont Derby against that tough Eastern competition. The grade three Transylvania just won the grade two Twilight Derby, which wasn't as tough a field off a layoff. But so obviously, I think he's primed now. Motion and Hernandez they're 2 for 4 together. So this one is certainly going to be the one to beat. That said, the one race at Del Mar was not a victory when he was, not really favored back then. Was still kind of developing. Still ran on nicely for second, not the fastest time, and just the fact that this is not his favorite course would be one reason to say, okay, there are horses that can beat him. So yeah, I will try to beat test score, but certainly if he wins this race, it will surprise absolutely nobody watching the race.
Well, he ran great when he ran here last year, Jay. That was a 2-year-old race. It was a full field. He had a tough post. He went wide every step of the way. He definitely had trouble, and he got beat a neck. I did not think that was a bad effort. He's clearly the horse to beat. I'm going to put him in my top three in here. Nothing really wrong with this horse. Test score is clearly a factor. The horse that I like as well is this 4-horse Salamis. If I'm pronouncing that right. Just took him a little bit of time to get his maiden broken in his fourth start, but I did like that effort. And then with Lasix off, I loved his race in the Gio Ponte, and I thought, boy, this guy was wide every step of the way last time. He's getting good at the right time. I'm just hoping to sneak this one in and maybe get 5-1. If you're right about test score, and I think you may be, Jay, I think he could be 6-5 in here, but I think this Salamis has a very good chance to upset the apple cart in here. And, none other than Chad Brown. It's interesting. I don't know that Rispoli's ever had a mount here for Chad Brown. Usually he brings a jockey or two out, and he usually brings horses for the matriarch, but nobody came over, at least for this race on Saturday. We'll see about Sunday, because I'm sure he's got somebody in the matriarch, although I haven't looked yet. But Salami's a very solid horse in this race, and could be a horse that might be slightly overlooked if he goes 5 or 6-1.
Yeah, kind of interesting. Flavian didn't come out for Friday. He's named on Sunday horses. So I think he just had some bigger purses. I don't think he wanted to give up the big purses on Clark Day at Churchill on Friday. But yeah, Steve, this one's really an up and comer. Won a nice stakes race over that Aqueduct course for the Belmont meet and is improving with every race. Last race against Keeneland, that was a tough field and no disgrace in losing a grade three there. And you have to take Chad Brown seriously anytime he comes out here. So definitely a contender here. And I will say, Steve, Salamis, he's no baloney.
Oh boy. You couldn't resist, huh? Oh wow. Okay. You want to take over the five here, Coco Sun?
Yeah, it's my turn on that one, and this one obviously is a modestly thought of horse by the line maker at 20 to 1, and deservedly so. Still a maiden, second time out, last time on rooting on the turf, and has had a couple of decent numbers, a 90 over at Santa Anita last time, just missing by a neck under DeSormo, and this time under Mike Smith, who does not return for the ride. Ayuso doesn't get a lot of graded stakes mounts, or at least a lot of wins in them. So I think Sadler, is kind of hoping this one improves. I think often what happens, Steve, when you enter a maiden like this, a modestly entered maiden in the grade, it's almost a conditioning race because then they really get legged up against this tougher competition. And, then when they drop back into maidens, it's easier for them to break their maiden because they've been facing these much tougher horses. And I think that's one reason Sadler's entering him here. I don't give him much of a shot.
Well, he could show speed though. I'll tell you what, his Brissy Pete number is pretty close. I mean, in the race two back in a maiden special weight on dirt, they went 44 and three to the half. He was only a length behind, so I think he'd be if you like friendly confines, I think in your mind you're gonna have to figure out whether this horse is gonna be sitting on your flank or whether you're gonna be able to clear him and slow the pace down. A mile and an eighth to go wire to wire at Jay at this track, you almost need to go 49. 49 is about the average time. It's the run up time is a little bit different at this distance, and you'll see the fractions are quite a bit slower coming out of that chute. So if they go faster than 49, they go 48 and change. The closers will have an edge in here, and I think that's going to be key. I think this horse is a pace factor only. I'm going to take over the next one. Cop, Michael McCarthy trains, certainly a good conditioner, a little bit cold. Still don't like the way Kimura rides this grass course. And this horse is a little bit short against these. I think other than he did run at Keeneland last time, and he is an East Coast shipper. That certainly got to give him some chance. But he's a West Coast based horse, and to me, he's got to really have to step it up.
Yeah, Steve. The maiden race was impressive. The race against allowance horses, that was a tough field. Anytime you have a $120,000 allowance, hell, that's a non-winners of one allowance, and that's $20,000 higher purse than our grade threes out here. So that's a tough race he came out of. Nevertheless, didn't perform very impressively. Couldn't make a dent against that tougher competition when he went into maiden, and I just don't think this horse is ready for graded stakes competition. Toss for me.
All right, what
And
about this Vola?
Tempest Volat. This one certainly is a contender here under Mirko de Moro, and I'll say it again. Wow, what a transition this one's made. I mean, came out here from Australia, where he wasn't, or not from Australia. He was actually running in uh,
Italy.
well, he's from Italy. Yeah, he and his brother Christian are from Italy, but he was actually running in Japan, mostly in these recent years. And at a certain point, they just stopped using him. That's a tough riding colony out there, and he just wasn't getting the mounts he was, but he wasn't ready to finish. So he came out here, and after getting his feet wet and showing these barns what he can do, wow, he's been doing really well. Richard Mandella's been using him as kind of a second call rider, and now other barns are using him at 10 for 33. So congratulations to Mirko for reviving his career. Uh, that said, this one has been a nice maiden breaker over the course. Before that was an impressive speed figure over the course as well. Drew a 92 back there. The last four have been under Mirko. And then they tried him in an optional claimer. Good third behind Maz. And then last time out in the Let It Ride, pulled a mild upset on Friendly Confines, who we talked about before. So if you like Friendly Confines, you have to like Tempest Volat to a degree. Yeah, I think he's got a shot.
Yeah, I didn't like either horse coming out of that race. I'm going to pass on this horse. I don't know where he's going to be, Jay. Is he going to be able to move over and save some ground coming out of that chute? Maybe not. Might be in the 2 or 3 path. He's in the 3 path. He's got no chance. He's in the 2 path. He's got a good chance to at least run to the best of his ability. He does have 2 wins here at Del Mar, but I'm going to play against all of those horses. I think Tempest Vola can be beaten at 5-1.
All
I'll
right,
take
Steve.
the last one in Tom's Magic. You know, uh, this is an excellent trainer. This guy's been training for as long as I can remember. When I was really concentrating on the fairgrounds, Michael Stidham was really my favorite trainer down there. But boy, this is 25, 30 years ago when I was really playing the fairgrounds heavily. And he's still training and he's still doing a phenomenal job. Good numbers with everything, even with shippers. Not a huge ROI, but he's just a very, very capable trainer. And we know Sue's a capable rider coming out of this 1.5 mile race. I think this horse is competitive. I think he's going to be better than all the horses coming out of that California race that I didn't like the Let It Ride. I'm going to play against the horses in the Let It Ride. I'll use Tom's Magic. My concern with him would be the trip at 7-2. I do think Salamis is a better bet if he could be 9-2. But I think this horse is a win contender, even from the far outside.
Yeah. So, Steve, obviously we look back and the race that stands out because back when we started, they didn't do this, but now they bold the horses that they've been running against in the past, so it makes it easy to see. And you can, of course, see the Transylvania race, which we mentioned for test score, and this one just finished up the track, had his head handed to him, and yet. If you look at the trouble line, bump between, steadied at the start, and you can argue with all that kind of trouble, that race might have been a clear throwout. I don't think he had the experience to beat test score on that day, but that probably isn't representative of how he would do against test score with a clean trip. He certainly improved a lot since then, pairing up a pair of 91 bris figures for Stidham. And, I do think he'd have to be considered one of the prime contenders here. I think the line maker agrees at 7-2. There's several prime contenders in here, but he's definitely one of them. And I won't be surprised to see him give a good accounting of himself.
Yeah, a little hint for our listeners here, for someone who's capped a lot of turf races. When I see a lot of trouble in a race, but it's on a different surface, and that different surface being a good turf at Keeneland, I don't watch the tape. I look at the good races and the good races, the yielding races, and I generally won't watch the tape because there's only so much time in a day. There's only so many tapes that you can watch. And I have found that when you like a horse based on a good race or a yielding race, you should wait for that horse to get back on that track if there was something about that trip that you thought was good. I would rate this horse basically off of his firm races rather than what he did on a good track, especially on a track, especially with the weather going to be really good this weekend, that we know is a much firmer track than what you'll see in the Midwest. So not something that I would use, but maybe a little tip to our viewers. But I think Tom's Magic is a factor. All right. You want to go with the 1, 2, 3 first?
Sure. Yeah, so yeah, I think that's a good point, Steve. And yeah, I would really like to use Tempest a lot because I think he's definitely a top three contender, but there's just three I think that are better. And I got to go that way. So my third pick will have to be Salamis. I think he's up and coming the right way, and in these turf festival races, Chad Brown, we've got some very, capable turf trainers out here, but as far as I'm concerned, Chad Brown is the best turf trainer in the country bar none, except when maybe Charlie Appleby or Aiden O'Brien ship something over. But other than those two guys, Chad Brown is unmatched. It's not cheap to fly horses out here. One of the reasons why we have these shorter horse populations out here is because it's not like back east where you can drive to Parks and you can drive to Monmouth and you can drive to Aqueduct. It's expensive. So when Chad Brown sends something out here, they're well meant. This horse is improving off his record now. He doesn't figure in the top contention, but considering the normal Chad Brown progression, I think Salamis will have to use in the top three. And I'll just say never leave a Chad Brown horse out of the trifecta in the Turf Festival. Make sure they're covered somewhere. Make sure they're covered somewhere in your pick four, your pick three, your pick five, because Chad Brown will more often than not pop up somewhere. My number two horse will be the big favorite, number three, Test Score. And certainly you can make a case he should be number one based on class. But, the point is, if you think you have a credible chance to beat him, you don't want to pick him on top. You're trying to beat him. I don't know if we can. Test Score is the most qualified off of what he's done. He's the most qualified and most accomplished horse in the field. But these are 3-year-olds. They're still improving. They haven't filled out completely. And, there are different factors. Again, Test Score, ran a big race that day here. It was not in fast time. And like you pointed out, wasn't the greatest post, but it was a 79 bris figure. He's much better since that effort, I'll grant you. But considering this is Test Score's second off a layoff, they can often go two ways, Steve. They can often say, okay, they've had their race off the layoff, now they're primed for their best, or they can bounce off that race off the layoff, and often, more often, I would say the third race off the layoff is the best. So there are enough credible reasons here to take a shot against Test Score, and that's what I'm going to do. He's my second pick. And number one, Steve, we just disagree on this one. And of course, I'm hoping I'm right. We'll see. But yeah, I like number one, Maz in here. Maz is the one that really gave Test Score a tussle last time. Finished a very close second to him, only a mile and a half off. Gets the advantage of the rail. I like the rail going at a mile and an eighth. This one also beat Tempest Velat, who I make a real contender in here, with Ricardo Gonzalez going for Mike McCarthy. Not having a great meet, but he's had a great year. I like Maz here on top to pull the mild upset.
All right. Well, he's a horse I've liked all along, and like I said, I did make a nice score in this horse a couple starts back. I'm going to go a different route. To me, I think the 9 would be my third horse, Tom's Magic. Certainly a very qualified horse to win this race. Ground loss would be my number one reason to probably have him third. Test Score, clearly the horse to beat. I think you and I both agree on that. This guy has run some really, really nice races and really easily disposed of the field in the Twilight Derby last time. But I'm going to take the up-and-comer in here. It is a Chad Brown horse. Chad did not have his best Breeders' Cup by any stretch of the imagination. He's been unbelievably dominant in this Turf Festival the last few years. I really liked what I saw on the tape in that October 25 race. Extremely wide, and it was Flavian Pratt. Sometimes even the best riders just don't have the right things happen. As he was going into the first turn, he tried to get in position. 2 other horses got inside of him. He was floated wider on that turn. Then the pace wasn't all that fast. They went almost 48, going a mile, which is very slow for that track. And he just was just way on the outside and just could never, ever move over. And then when they turned for home, he even had to go wider. And I thought he finished up really nicely. I don't think that race is indicative of him. I think he's improving. And I really like the acceleration that I saw in the previous race. So I'm going with Salamis, and hopefully the crowd will lean more toward the other 2 shippers, because I think they're going to make this race with the shippers. And maybe you've got the price horse in there with Maz. It's 4-3-9 for me in the 9th race at Del Mar.
All right, Steve. Yeah, I think we obviously agree on a couple of them, and Salamis might give you a little bit of a price. Rispoli's not going to help that. He gets bet, and obviously, even though he's not West Coast based, people kind of know the reputation of Chad Brown. But even if you get say 7-2, it's a lot better value than Test Score at 6-5, right?
It would be. Yes, it would be. Again, I've been sort of leaning towards, especially in these later races, I've been really into that pick 3. that late pick three with the higher amount that you have to bet has really been a good bet for me. And instead of waiting for your 9-2 or your 5-1 or your 10-1 or your 20-1 to be betting half because you're relying on what the odds maker has, I just feel like playing these pick threes has been a real big part of what I've been trying to do this entire meet. Del Mar has become a little bit of a different animal, and that's probably what I'll do in this race. I believe we've got on the Saturday, I think we've got an 11 race card. I'm going to talk about the 10th race. And Jay, I think you're going to talk about the 7th race. So why don't we pick it up there? We each got a race. I think, in fact, Jay, I think you said that you even had a race at Churchill for us. So we got 3 races we're going to go over individually. You're going to do Del Mar 7 and then a race at Churchill, and I'm going to do the 10th at Del Mar.
Well, actually, Steve, I was looking for a race at Churchill, but I just ran out of time. We're too far in advance of it. However, I will commit. I'm going to give out a free play for Churchill that I will post on my blog at racingjason.com, where you can get our selections, full card selections, plus a $15 best bet card selection as well. And I will cross post that listing at Horse Racing World Channel. So whether you're catching us on the YouTube, or whether you're a regular listener of Jason's old Inside Racing show where we still sell our selections, there will be a free play from Churchill there.
Sweet.
Now, having said that, let's look at race 7 here because I like this one, and that's the Jimmy Durante. Always a fun race. This a race where you have a lot of the 2-year-olds that are now mature and they're ready to be 3-year-olds, so they're starting to enter their prime now. And we'll see if we can knock off the favorite here. And it's not really a heavy favorite. The favorite here is number 9, Hypergamy. And Hypergamy is from Doug O'Meal and Antonio Ferzu. Comes off a nice maiden race and put together a nice speed figure. That 84 brisk speed figure, excuse me, is the best last figure on the turf, though Bourbon and Ginger had a more superior one two back in the Speakeasy at Santa Anita. So that one is one that broke their maiden here over the dirt course, and was not a bad first turf effort. So Bourbon and Ginger should improve off of that. But the one I really like, Steve, we're talking about Chad Brown here, and I really have to like this one. Modest little shipper that came from nice maiden win over Belmont at Aqueduct at first asking. That's number 4, Just Aloof. This one is really bred nicely. This one
Sure is.
really has some distance in her wheelhouse. Justify, of course, won the Belmont Stakes going a mile and a half. And Galileo's, the dam sire Galileo, just the distance is unlimited. You see Galileo's all the time winning at a mile and a half, a mile and 3/4, 2 miles and longer at Britain. So this one is bred for the distance, and yet this one showed some nice tactical speed going a mile. Set off that leader and just ran the leader down and got up for a neck in time for Chad Brown and our friend, best jockey, his favorite jockey back there, Alan Benowitz always loved Mario Franco. So not Mario Franco, but
Manny.
uh, sorry.
Manny, you can't say Manny because you're a Dodger fan. You hate Manny. You just hate
Oh,
Manny no matter what. I can't get you Dodger fans. I just can't. Jeez. I'm sorry.
those PEDs were just, it was innocent stuff, kidding. So yeah, I just think this one has a nice future. And again, Chad, it's expensive to ship him out here. And I think Hector Berrios, as you pointed out, tends to be a horse that breaks him out of the gate sooner. So I think this one might break out a little bit quicker here. So I think Just Aloof here with Chad Brown does very well with shippers, does very well with second grass races. And at 6-1, I don't expect to get that on a Chad Brown and Hector Berrios, but I think I'll get 4. And at 4-1, number 4, Just Aloof, is a nice value here.
Yeah, he looks like a nice horse. I have not watched the tape on that, but I will before certainly before Saturday. But certainly looks like an impressive running line. I've been playing that track every day and all the turf races. I don't recall this race first time starter at 8-1. I must not have had it, Jay, because if I had it at 8 to 1, I would have remembered.
I hear you, Steve. So, yeah, we'll give that a trifecta here. I'm not going to tell you we're covering all the bases here, but yeah, I don't think the exacta price, when I give out those exacta wheels, because I think a lot of horses come in a second here, but when I have a horse that's going 6 to 1 morning line, and I expect to go off at 4 to 1, possibly 7 to 2, the exacta price just doesn't justify the wheel. Usually I only give those out when you've got a big price on top. So I'm going to use these horses in the trifecta, and we'll just play just aloof on top of all of them and keep our fingers crossed. We're going to use number one, Latte Love, nice maiden breaker for Doug O'Neill and Mirko De Moro. We'll use Special Wood. This is the Euro shipper, and this is not the most impressive Euro shipper in terms of class. Has been running against some fair to middling horses over in France. That said, their allowance horses are generally going to be better than our allowance horses, and that's what this one is. So Special Wood certainly can, hit the board at a price. Bourbon and Ginger, I mentioned, had that horse number three, Bourbon and Ginger, had that big figure two back. I think we'll improve off of that. We'll also use number five, La Ville Lumiere. This one I really looked at as a possible horse on top. And the question with La Ville Lumiere, the turf figures are certainly not as good as some of the best ones here. The last two dirt figures have been impressive, and this one ran in the juvenile fillies against a Super Corridora, who really took advantage of the speed, bias that day and just got away. I had Super Corridora on my possible contenders, but in the end, I didn't use her, and that was a mistake. But yeah, she upset Explorer. Explorer just couldn't get to her. So now the question with Loville Lumiere is, did she has she improved that much that she's just that much better, or is she just that much better on dirt? Because all the dirt figures are better than the two turf figures. I think it's probably somewhere in between. I think she's improved overall, but I don't think her turf figures are going to come up to the dirt figures. So, but I was very tempted to use her on top at 8 to 1. But okay, so I use that. We'll use Sweet Little Lila, and this is of course another Eastern shipper. And anytime a horse does well in an Eastern race like Eastern Stakes, that translates to generally a nice performance over here. So number six is in there. Let's see, we'll use number eight, Yours Sincerely, in the trifecta. Got to use the favorite Hypergamy, and I will pass on the two outside horses, even though Hernandez is on Wild Like the West. I think that one has some more growing up to do. So basically, the trifecta is, yeah, I know that's a lot of numbers here, but it'll be worth it if it comes in. Eight, I'm sorry, four with 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 9. Did I leave anybody out? I think there's, yeah, did I leave somebody? Hang on, Steve. I got to check this one more time. Four with 1, 2, 3. I left out the eight, excuse me. Four with 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 8, 9. With 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 8, 9. That's a $42.50 trifecta, and I think it will has a chance to make triple figures, at least $100 if that comes in.
$42 dollar try, Jay. 7 times 6 is 42 for a dollar. If
Oh,
you
yeah, I'm
play a first
sorry.
and second,
That's
yeah,
if you
no,
play a
no
dollar.
worries.
If you play, you're absolutely right. And if you play it for
So
50 cents,
chop it
it's
in
only
half if you
21.
play it for 50 cents. Yeah. Are they
Yeah.
doing? I'm glad I don't know if they're 50-cent tries right now. Yes, there are.
Yeah,
Because
it's a last chance, and come Santa Anita and come Los Alamitos in a couple of weeks, and then Santa Anita, we're back to dollar trifectas for the next 7 months. So
yeah,
enjoy
baby.
them while you got them.
I love that dollar bet. You know me. I
Yeah.
like the bigger minimums. All right. I'm gonna do Del Mar race number 10. It's a 7 furlong event here, and sometimes you just gotta weigh things out. And it's the horse I like is the number one horse, Speedy Wilson, and obviously coming out of the chute, the number one post position is not the greatest post position in the world. However, I really liked a couple things about this horse. One is every single start that this horse has ever had, including the 7 furlong real good deal, which was against Cowbreds, he just exploded in that race, beat a horse named Shea Brennan, who came back and beat Cowbreds after that. I'm not that concerned if the Cowbred figure is good enough, that 7 furlong distance. And I think this horse is certainly good enough based on that race. The next race was a 2-turn race. He went wide and he really flattened out. Cutting back, the breeding to me says sprint. And if you look at this horse's last 6 furlong dirt turf sprint. They put the horse on the turf for the first time. I don't think it's a great pedigree for turf, but I'll tell you what, this guy was really finishing well. Galloped out with the winners in that race, and I thought the horse ran really well again. Got a freshening. Diamato barn, really nice looking works coming in with a 58 and change work a couple back on November the 14th. I think he's going to run a really good race today. I'm going to use two horses with him. Now, the big key in this race is two of them. One is Comedy Town on the outside, who ran a really nice second with the speed bias on Breeders' Cup Saturday. I don't think this horse wants to go this far. He's run 7 furlongs twice. He runs like a 6 furlong. He does have a win at 7 furlongs. And he certainly has the figures to do so. From the outside, I'm going to try to beat him. Madacat Road, very interesting here. Lasix for the first time, which is always a good thing for Baffert. But what I noticed about this horse that's very interesting to me is a very shaky looking work pattern for Baffert. His horses usually are airtight work patterns, 6-7 days apart, very fast works. This horse worked September the 1st. He then ran, then he didn't work until October the 30th. Where did he go there? That work was at Los Alamitos. Then he went over to Santa Anita, worked November the 12th, and neither one of those two works were fast. He did have a fast work last time at 59. Comes in with only 3 works going 7 furlongs. Man, this horse is always getting bet. He's still only 1 for 8. He's probably the horse to beat, and I think he can be beaten today. I really like Speedy Wilson. I think he's the best horse in this race, and I think he has to work out a trip from the rail, but at 6-1 with that rider, Armando Ayuso, I think Diamato's got a good one. So I'm going to play him to win. I'm going to use the 5 Tessuto. Tessuto was really sprinting well back early in the season at Santa Anita. He had a couple of really nice seconds, one to Positivity that stood out. And then they tried to go long with this horse a few races in a row, and it seemed like he went sour. I think freshening this horse, Hot Barn, Papa Padromo, he's 8-1 in the morning line. Look for him to be a little higher, even with the Hot Barn. I think he could complete a nice exact in here. But for me, it's the 1 Speedy Wilson. I'm going to play him to win, and we'll play 1-5-1-7 exacta box. That's race 10 on Saturday. And Jay, I think you gave out the 9th, or you gave out the 11th, right? That was the 11th race. And then we had the 9th race was the team race, right? Or what race did you give out, Jay?
I gave out the 7th.
Okay, so 7, 9, and 10. So there's 3 of the pick 4 races for Saturday, right? Or is that an 11 race card?
It's an 11 race card, yeah.
It is. All right. So all right. So we gave out 3 races in the pick 6.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, Steve, I like Speedy Wilson's chances. Like you pointed out, that work is smoking. And I love his record over Delmar. He's got the best record over the track, and the course is 2 for 5 and a second and a third. He loves this track.
Yeah, he's run well here for sure. And I'm a little concerned with the trip. Think he gets in front. When I see a horse in the rail, I always look at the 2 horse and I see how fast that horse is. That horse has shown better speed on the turf than he's shown on the dirt, Tejon Pass. And I think it's actually real important that Speedy Wilson gets in front of him. It's an interesting sidebar that I've always discovered. If you're going equal with the horse that's next to you, if you can get loose down on the inside there, that's a big factor. And I think this horse can do that. And I think our Heisman is actually a little quicker than he is. So I could really see Speedy Wilson maybe being alone down there by himself, which I think when horses run good from the rail, that happens. When there's a bunch of horses and they're constantly pushing them over into that inside, that's a negative. So let's hope that Speedy Wilson outbreaks Tejon Pass, sits behind our Heisman, and makes that run. And Madacat Road maybe doesn't show up with his best. 1-5-1-7 for me in the 10th race on Saturday.
All right, Steve.
And that's about it, Jay. Is there anything else that you wanted to add? Anything else you're thinking about?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, keep an eye on those Midwest tracks. They're offering a lot of value. The Churchill meet is grinding to a close, and soon they'll be moving up to Turfway Park, which sometimes can have some value over that surface up there, the Tapeta surface they've installed. So I'll be watching that one. But I'm kind of focused on that and a little bit focused away from the New York circuit this time of year. I mean, you certainly want to watch the New York circuit come the spring and early summer when they ramp up for Belmont. Some of the best racing in the country is there, and of course Saratoga. But some of these other times, one thing I've noticed is, the top jocks, the Ortiz brothers and Flavio and Pratt, who for years would still be hanging around Aqueduct at this time and waiting for the cigar mile and then head down to Gulfstream, have kind of passed this part of the meet, and now they're riding at Churchill Downs because the purses are so good. So when you have big purses, you get big fields. So in this coming year, I'll be watching Keeneland and Churchill with much greater attention than before. Used to be with Churchill, it's like after the Derby, it's like, it's okay. But now it's more than okay. It's really become a great meet.
Yeah, I don't really care for the Churchill meet very much. Funny thing, I really like that Turfway meet. And I know that's a different surface for these horses, but I played that for the first time last year. I'm going to go South Florida route and concentrate a little bit more in Tampa. I will continue to play Gulfstream. And I've added the fairgrounds. I watched the first week and a half or so at fairgrounds. And oh my goodness, very, very speedy turf course down there right now. I'm not sure the reason why, but we've had claimers breaking track records. I've seen track records at three different distances down there, so I'm not sure why the track is so fast. But I'm going to keep watching the fairgrounds down there again right now, and you're going to see more bad weather coming there, and they won't be on the turf as much. But I'm going to keep an eye on the turf races there in Tampa, and I'll keep an eye on Gulfstream no matter what. And of course, we'll get through Los Al, and then we've got Santa Anita. And speaking of that, Jay, I just wanted to mention to the listeners that our next day back will be, I think the tentative plans are we're going to have an opening day show for Santa Anita. And then I think the next show after that will be for the Pegasus. I think you and I have discussed that. And that'll be the immediate plans for you and I on Saddle Up.
Absolutely, Steve. Yeah, looking forward. Those are both huge days. And then we'll pick out selected races on the Derby Trail. I'll be taking the Los Alamitos meet off. Definitely need some recharge time after a busy heck of a year. So I'll be back for opening day. But Steve, I know you're going to be soldiering on and putting up some Los Alamitos picks as well.
Yeah, I like that Los Alamitos pick four. I had a little success with it last meet. I try to hit it once or twice if I can. 6-day meet or a 9-day meet, depending on what they're going to do. I think it's only 6 days. I think it's Friday, Saturday, Sunday, 2 different weeks. And then we'll be off for a week. I'm not 100% sure of that, but I'll have something up on the Friday or on the Saturday and Sunday, and perhaps an out of town race again, because I'm really looking at some of the out of town stuff, paying a lot more attention. I've been planning some tournaments back there, but I am adding Turfway to my repertoire this winter. And I don't know if I'm going to have any of those Turfway races on the line. And the main reason for that is it's just last year I just discovered it's such a strong bias track, and I really don't like to play bias tracks. Oaklawn really has become more consistent than it used to be. 20 years ago when I was playing Oaklawn, you never knew what track you were going to get. It was incredible how it would change so drastically. It doesn't seem to be that happens anymore, and you get a more consistent track. But Turfway really is a strong bias track, and I like playing strong bias tracks. Being that I started my evolution at Del Mar, which is a big strong bias track, and I think if you try to figure out what kind of track Turfway is at the very beginning, you can really have an advantage there, because there are some days when it's all speed, and there are some days there when it's all closers, and then those horses come back. Maybe you can get those horses that were against it in the right situation when they're with it. That's really something that you can make a profit on a track where you will see price horses run well. So I will be looking a little bit at Turfway, but for the most part, yeah, we'll take it easy a little bit, Jay. I wish you a happy Thanksgiving and a Merry Christmas, and we'll talk to you. We should have we'll do a podcast, perhaps like the 23rd or 24th, when we can get the PPs for the day after Christmas, which we can usually get them a day before.
Yeah,
So
exactly. Yeah, one of those days just before. Keep an eye on the calendar. Go to racingjason.com from time to time. We'll definitely post that on our blogs, and I'll definitely post something on Horse Racing World Channel as well, announcing the date for the next one once we determine that. So yeah, Steve, happy Thanksgiving to you and your family. Enjoy your time with your wife and your brother and the whole fam, and don't eat too much turkey.
all right, Jay, you do the same. Have a great Thanksgiving. All the listeners out there have a great Thanksgiving and just a wonderful holiday. And certainly going to enjoy myself tomorrow. And you and I will be back at it playing the horses over the weekend. So looking forward to that. everybody have a great one out there, and we'll talk to you just before Christmas.